Good afternoon. My name is Lauren Cusick, and I'm a member of the Engineering and Environmental staff. This presentation, Don't Fear the NEPA, is about environmental requirements for Farm Bill Broadband Loan and Community Connect Grants. It'll help you get through the environmental process, we hope. So, the environmental regulations can be found in 7 CFR Part 1970. These were effective as of April 1st, 2016. No, this is not an April Fool's Day joke. This just happened to be the day that they came out. These regulations replace the two former regulations for RHS and RBS, Regulation 7 CFR 1940-G, and RUS's Regulation 7 CFR 1794. These are now all combined together and the same for all of rural development in 7 CFR Part 1970. So these regulations separate all agency actions into 4 levels of environmental review. Categorical exclusions, which can be found in subpart B, 1970.53. Categorical exclusions with an environmental report, subpart B, 1970.54, environmental assessments, which can be found at subpart C, and environmental impact statements, which can be found in subpart D. None of your projects should be environmental impact statements. If you think they are, please come talk to us very early, but they shouldn't be. It is unlikely that many of your projects would even be an environmental assessment. So subpart A in 1970 discusses some of the big policy and explanations for how the process works. It includes the statement that applicants may employ a design or an environmental professional or some other form of a technical service provider to assist them in the preparation of their environmental review documents. It also talks about how the agency, RUS, will determine whether any extraordinary circumstances exist that would warrant a higher level of review for a project. Details of extraordinary circumstances can be found in 1970.12. But the big takeaway is that applicants must wait until the environmental review process is complete prior to initiating project activities. If not, the applicant risks losing their funding or their eligibility. Again, I cannot stress this enough. Do not start any project work or construction or anything until environmental is complete. So then we get to subpart B, categorical exclusions. These are often referred to as CAT-X's or CEs, just so that you know they all mean the exact same thing. Categorical exclusions are classes of actions that the agency has determined do not individually or cumulatively have a significant effect on the human environment. The key to this is these are not just activities that you don't think are going to have an impact or you're very sure after looking at them are going to have no impact. They are actually written down in 1970.53 and 54. They went out for public comment and have had the chance for people to comment on them. If your project is not on the list, we do not have the ability to say, oh, no worries, we agree it won't have an impact. That's not how these work. It has to be on the list. Categorical exclusions also have to be reviewed for extraordinary circumstances. Examples of these are violations of federal or state regulation or statutes for the protection of the environment, safety, or health, or an adverse effect on historic property, a threatened or endangered species, wetlands, floodplains, sole source aquifers, or the existence of controversy based on the effect on the human environment because of the agency's actions. These are all different types of actions that could raise up the level of review from a simple categorical exclusion to maybe a categorical exclusion with a report, or possibly even to an EA. It just depends. But we do have to look at every project. The first type of categorical exclusions are 1970.53, categorical exclusions without an environmental report. So this section is intended to be for proposals that involve no or minimal alterations in the physical environment, generally or on previously disturbed land. Examples of these are renovating an existing building or actions in regards to equipment within an existing building, possibly replacement of burial, aerial, or underground cable, or adding new equipment to an existing tower or building. Again, the agency, RUS, may request documentation supporting the determination that this does qualify as a CADX without an environmental report, specifically if we think that an extraordinary circumstance may exist with their project. So don't be surprised if we ask for a little bit more information just to make sure that your project is properly classified. So the next level is 1970.54, categorical exclusions with an environmental report. So this is those activities that have a little bit more impact on the environment, but still don't require a full EA, but we generally need a little bit more information to ensure that no extraordinary circumstances exist. The types of projects that fall under here are going to be something like a new tower if it's under 450 feet, not visible from an area of scenic value, or a new or modular building, or laying new buried aerial or underground cable, or adding equipment out in the middle of a field. These are the types of activities that we're going to need a little bit more information on from you guys, a little bit more details, just so that we can make sure it really does qualify. So what is the environmental report for you guys, you may ask? Generally, this is going to be the environmental questionnaire you're going to fill out. Now, the environmental questionnaire can also be found with the Community Connect application guide, which also, if you go to page 5, has a list of general projects and the types of review that would normally be required and what specifically we're going to be looking for so that you know what to focus on. Specifically things like National Historic Preservation Act review, Fish and Wildlife review, those are all called out specifically in this guide. We will also post a categorical exclusions no potential list on our website just so that you have that as well. So on the questionnaire, the important thing is to fill out all parts of the questionnaire. Even if your project is listed as a CADX, please answer all parts. If your project is listed as a CADX with an ER, 1970.54, you're going to want to be a little bit more expansive with all of your answers, as we're probably going to come back and ask for a little bit more information if you're really short and brief with your answers. So just give us a little bit more information and details the first time around. It'll make the process go so much smoother and faster. So when in doubt, just give us a little bit more information if you can. And that will hopefully just help the process. So the first question is about the project description and location. So you're going to want to give a complete project description of all project-related activities. So this includes clearing, grading, excavating, paving, fencing. So if your project is, I'm putting up a tower, well, we're going to ask you, are you putting fencing around the outside of the tower? Are you building an access road to the tower? Oh, you're putting up a new building. Are you putting up a parking lot right next to it? These are the types of things that often get missed and left out, and that is the reason we will have to go start from scratch again with a project if you've completely missed a significant portion of it. We're also looking for maps, such as like a topo map of where your project is. An aerial photograph with the project drawn onto it. So go to Google Earth, print off a picture and put a box in and say, here's where my tower is going. Here where my lines are going. Here's where my building is going. If you happen to have ground level photos of where your project is, go ahead and include those as well. But remember, we're going to want to see all project elements on any maps that you provide, just so that we have an easy, complete picture. We're also going to want an address or a lat and long for your project. We understand it may not be exact and perfect, but we want to have something so that when somebody is asking us where this project is, we're not saying it's in X county, and they're saying that's not helpful. So if the answer is it's along this highway between these 2 mile markers, say that. Or it is behind the school at this address. That it doesn't have to be actual exact place if it's not realistic, but give me something so that when I'm talking to people about it, I have something to use. The next section is land ownership and land use. So for this area, you're going to want to discuss the amount of property that's going to be affected or disturbed, who owns the land, are there any other regulating agencies that have an interest in this land? Is your land formally classified? As in, are you going through a park, a wilderness area, state or national forest? If you have any information about any environmental justice concerns, low-income or minority populations that might be disproportionately affected by this is the section where you want to tell me that. Have you had any consultation with state or local governments? Include those conversations and tell me about it here. Is any prime farmland going to be directly or indirectly converted? If the answer is yes, you'll most likely need to fill out NRCS's AD-1006 form. So this is conversion of prime farmland, and it talks about have you considered any alternatives, how much is going to be converted, and does require some consultation with NRCS. So just be aware of that if you are going to convert prime farmland. If you're not, you need to tell me how you know you're not in this section as well. The next section is wetlands. Is your project going to be on or near any wetlands? You're going to want to tell me, and you're also going to want to include something to support that statement. The National Wetlands Inventory is a fantastic place. Go to the site, give me a screenshot, and draw on that map where your project is. Easy way to show. If for some reason you can't do that, NRCS has hydric soil maps to show me whether or not your project is in an area that could be wetlands. Again, show me on the actual map where your project will be. If you're going to be impacting wetlands, you're going to have to do some consultation with Army Corps of Engineers. You may actually even need to do a wetland delineation for the Army Corps to clearly indicate where any wetlands are around your project and how or how not you're going to have any impacts on them. So you will need to look into that and support your statement to me. The next section is threatened and endangered species. So this section is in red because there are very strict time requirements that we cannot impact on this. We cannot shorten it for you as much as you may like us to. So for this, the question is, are any project sites or activities going to directly or indirectly affect threatened, endangered, proposed, or candidate species, or their designated critical habitats? So for this, the easiest way to do it is to go to U.S. Fish and Wildlife, IPAC, put in your project and where it's going to be, and it will come up with a list of species that you could be impacting. You're going to also want to go to your state agency. They should have a list of state endangered and threatened species as well. You're going to want to go figure out whether you're going to have no impact on the species on that IPAC report, such as it says there's 2 fish that are threatened. Well, my project isn't going near water and it won't be impacting any bodies of water. Okay, that's a good reason to write that and say there will be no effect. If, however, you cannot do that for a species, and the answer is you may affect, but you're not likely to adversely affect, you will have to go to Fish and Wildlife and get their concurrence. Fish and Wildlife generally will respond within 30 days, but they do not have to, and you have to wait until they are finished and have concurred to move forward. Therefore, you're going to want to start this early in the process. So in the end, you're going to want to do one of two things. Either have a no effect for every species on that list, or consultation with Fish and Wildlife and a concurrence with your determination. If you're having questions, you need some assistance, you're unsure about this, please contact me. Do not just sit there waiting. The next section is floodplains. For this section, you're going to want to, again, identify whether any floodplains are on or adjacent to your project sites. So give me a floodplain map of some sort and draw on where your project is. The FEMA flood map is a fantastic way to do this, but there are other ways if you don't have that. So I just need to know not only whether you are in a floodplain. Generally, the 100-year floodplain is what we use, unless you've got a critical facility, which most of your projects will not be. But if you are in a critical facility, it's the 500-year floodplain. But not only do I want to know whether your project is going to impact the floodplain, I want to know whether your project will withstand a flood if you are in the floodplain. So it goes both ways if you're in the floodplain. So the next section is coastal areas. For this section, again, identify whether you are in a coastal zone or coastal area. If you are, you're probably going to do some consultation, especially with the State Coastal Zone Management Agency. And provide me some maps to show where your project is compared to the coastal zones or coastal barrier, if you are. If you're not, a simple statement that says my project is not in the coastal zone, I am X miles away from it, or I'm in a state that doesn't have a coastal area. Whatever the case is fine, just clearly indicate it. The next section is Brownfield. This one's pretty straightforward. Will your project be located within a brownfield? If it is, give me some information. If it's not, tell me how you know and move forward. So the next section is historic preservation. Again, this is in red because there are time limitations that we cannot change on this. So for this section, I want a discussion of any historical resources within your area of potential effects. I also want you to describe the steps you've taken to identify any historic properties. If you've already had correspondence with the State Historic Preservation Office or the Tribal Historic Preservation Office, SHPO or TIPO, let me know about those and include them. Which tribes have you reached out to? Let me know which tribes and when. What documentation or data have you used to make any determinations? Did you do any archaeological surveys? Include all of that information in this section. Now, the good news is that if your project is a 1970.53, a CADX without a report, you may be on our no potential list, which means you do not need to go to SHPO or tribes for those projects. If, however, your project is a 1970.54, you are going to have to coordinate with SHPO and tribes. This is going to take you a minimum of 30 days, so please plan accordingly. If you need assistance with this, Subpart H has template letters, specific details, walks you through the process step by step. But if even after looking at that you have any questions, please reach out to me, contact me early in the process, and I can help you through this. But you have to reach out to me early. So the next part is subpart C, environmental assessments. So environmental assessments, or EAs, are concise public documents that RUS uses to determine whether to go issue a FONSI, which is a finding of no significant impact, or prepare an EIS. If you think your project is going to require an EA, please come to me early. We will work with you because it does require public notice. Completely doable. However, it is a little bit more effort. You're probably going to want to hire a professional to help you prepare the EA, since it does go out to the public for public comment. It is a document that's meant to be clear and concise and complete, but written so that someone with little previous knowledge of your project can understand and verify the information you're giving them. It is a standalone document that needs to incorporate all of the relevant technical information to support your finding. But most of your projects should not fall under this, and if they are, come talk to me, we can work through it. So as I had mentioned earlier, on the Community Connect Grant application, this chart walks you through a lot of the normal actions that we see and the types of environmental review and categorization we would expect for it. For example, a buried cable outside of a plant would generally be either a 53D2 or a 54B4, depending on if it was new or replacement. If it was a 53D2, which is a replacement cable, you would not have to go to SHPO or tribes because that's on our no potential list. If, on the other hand, it's a 54B4, a new cable, you're going to need to contact SHPO and tribes for 106 review. You're also going to want to either avoid wetlands or identify and explain why your project has to be in a wetland, and we're going to look a little more carefully at that. If your project was a new construction tower, it's going to be a 54A6, assuming it's under 450 feet and not visible from areas of documented scenic value. You will need to especially consider impacts to prime farmland and any listed species by Fish and Wildlife. We're also going to want to see some maps regarding floodplains and wetlands, and assurances if you happen to be in a floodplain that not only will you not impact the floodplain, but that a flood would not destroy your tower. And you would have to consult with SHPO and tribes for this type of a project. So it just runs through most of your projects and what you would expect and what areas you should focus on in your report. So this website is the environmental guidance that we have. On it, you'll be able to find subparts A through D, which are the actual regulations, and then all the way through O, which give details and specifics on the different resource areas. So, for example, subpart H gives you details on historic preservation. Subpart N gives you details on biological resources. Subpart F gives you details on floodplains. It gives you templates, flows, charts. It really walks you through what you're going to want to look for on any of the individual resources. Hopefully it's very helpful for you. Any questions? And this is our contact information. Again, I'm Lauren Cusick. My contact info is there, as is our director, Kelly Kubina. So if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out to us. We are here to help you and facilitate this process and make it nice and smooth for you. Thanks. Have a wonderful day.